Tonight, we encourage you to participate through a couple different ways. The first way is through reactions. So we're going to go ahead and take the time now to find the reactions feature on our Zoom and go ahead and try a reaction example for us. Oh, I see a party by Anna. Party reaction, awesome. I see a heart by Reagan, wonderful. Looks like we're finding the reactions, awesome. Second way you'll be able to participate is you will have the chance to use the mic tonight and share out your voices with us. If it gets to be that time where you're able to share out loud, we just ask that you use the reaction of raising your hand and wait for us to call on you, and then you'll be able to go ahead and share out. The last way you'll be able to participate tonight is by using the chat feature. So we're going to go ahead and practice the chat feature now. So if you can go ahead and answer this question for me, what is one good thing that happened to you this week? And add that to the chat now. I got to go to the park and pick up trash for Earth Day. Nice. Played with my friends. Couple great things that happened this week. Couple great things for me. I've been enjoying this beautiful spring weather, getting outside, walking my dog, enjoying the fresh air, going for bike rides. My friend rode to school with me. Awesome. I got to buy another Stanley cup. Exciting. Love those. I had mine right here with me tonight. Love those cups. Wonderful. We look like we have found the chat. Excellent. So we encourage you to either use reactions, unmute yourselves and use a mic, as well as use the chat, as long as it's appropriate time to do so throughout the night so we all stay engaged. Awesome. Finally, one last kind reminder, if you have any technical issues or personal questions throughout the night, I'm going to ask that you directly message Anterica, our other GSSEM host. She will be monitoring the chat throughout the night and she'll be able to assist you with anything you may need. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Then with a game. So we're going to kick things off with a game tonight. So icebreaker time. Icebreaker directions. We're going to go ahead and use something called Jamboard tonight. I don't know if you've ever used that or not. If not, I'm going to explain the directions so we'll know how to use it when we get started. So after these directions are given, I'm going to go ahead and add a link to the chat. When you click at that link, there's going to be a big whiteboard that appears on your screen. You're going to take the time to answer 4 questions. When you're ready to move on to the next question, you're going to click on the arrows at the top of your screen, which if you take a look at this picture right here, 1 out of 4, it shows us where the arrows are going to be located up on our screen. And when you're ready to move on to the next question, you're going to click that right arrow. I'll switch to the next one. What you're going to do is you're going to add some colorful sticky notes to answer each question on the big board. At the end, once everybody's had a chance to answer each question, I'll pass on over the mic to all of you and encourage you to share out with ways that you've answered the questions. So before I pop that link in the chat, we're going to look at the board all together. Okay, so when I add the link to the chat, this is what you're going to see that pops up on your screen. It almost kind of looks like a big whiteboard that you may have in your classroom at school, just a virtual option. So what you're going to do is there's going to be a question, like those 4 questions that I talked about, that's going to appear at the top of your screen. You're going to read through the question, and then you're going to have a chance to answer it using the sticky notes. Where you can find the sticky notes is on this toolbar on the left-hand side. You're going to click on the picture that looks like a little sticky note. You'll see lots of colorful sticky notes appear. You can choose any color that you would like. I'm going to choose blue. Blue is my favorite color. And you're going to answer the question. So the question was, what is a cause that you are passionate about? So I am passionate about helping the elderly. That is something I'm really passionate about. I'm really close with my grandma and she's in an assisted living home. So I'm really passionate about not only visiting her, but also visiting her friends to make sure they have a friendly face and somebody to talk with. So I would add that sticky note. How you're going to do that is you're going to click the save option. If you want to add another sticky note, you're more than welcome to. I'm just going to add the one for now. So I'll hit cancel. And you'll see that my sticky note has appeared on the big whiteboard. I am going to move it out of the way though, so it's not blocking the words up here on the top of the screen. So if I wanted to add another one, I can. If I just want to stick with the one like I am for now, I'll just leave it on the screen as it is. When I'm ready to move on to the next question, I'll find that right arrow up here at the top, and it's going to take me to question number 2. So we'll just read through these questions together. What is your favorite line from a book, song, or movie? Same thing. You'll click that sticky note, add it to the big whiteboard. 3, what is your dream job and why? You'll follow the same steps as below. Sticky note, add it. And if you had your own talk show or podcast, who would you invite as your first guest? So these are going to be our icebreaker questions as we get started tonight to get to know each other a little bit better. I'm going to leave this big whiteboard on the screen so we can see all of our ideas starting to come together. It's going to be like a big collaboration board. So with that being said, I'm going ahead and add this link to the chat. Go ahead and click on it, and you will be able to start answering these questions. The link is now in the chat, so you should be able to see it and go ahead and click on it. Oh, here's our first one, helping and caring for others. Great one. Picking up trash. I love seeing it. These ideas come together. Picking up trash, self-care, always an important one. Self-care, making sure you take care of yourself and do the things that you enjoy. Sometimes that can be hard, especially when you're busy and help others. It's always important to take time for yourself. I have to remind myself to do that every so often. Okay, I'm going to flip to the next question and see how we're looking. Okay. Some of us have added Hamilton Warriors Wings of Fire. Helping friends in need. Always important, lending a helping hand to those that you care about. I'm going to move on to question 2 so we can start to see what's being added to this one. Oh, I see. I don't have one. I have never actually thought about that. Well, now you can start to think about it. So if this icebreaker question ever comes up again, you will have an idea in mind. Sometimes it's hard to choose just one too. If you like lots of books or songs or movies, sometimes that can be a really tough question. Going on to question number 3. What is your dream job and why? Want to work in an office, help animals, be a singer, special needs assistant. All sound like wonderful goals. Anything where I can get to help others, work at a local park, bioarchitect. Amazing. You all can do anything that you set your minds to. Dance instructor. Okay, and I'm going to move on to the last one. Looks like we're finishing adding to question number 3. If you had your own talk show or podcast, who would you want to invite as your first guest? Oh, Friends, Nima Macy, Taylor Swift. I would also want to invite her to my podcast, Taylor Swift, for sure. Okay, I'll give us another couple seconds to add to this last question, and then we'll have a chance if anybody would like to use the mic to share out with us. Okay, Beyonce, Braylon, my friend. Okay, looks like most of us have gotten our ideas added. If you're finishing up, go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and have a chance to share. So I'm going to pass the mic on to you all in case anybody wants to share their answers to their questions, what they have added to the board. And once again, we'll just ask that you raise your hand using that reaction and wait for us to call on you, and then you'll be able to go ahead and share out. Anybody like to share what they added? Oh, I see Reagan has raised her hand. So Reagan, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can share with us what you added to our Jamboard today.
I put helping and caring for others.
Wonderful.
And helping. I put Wings of Fire because it's one of my favorite books.
Okay, amazing. What did you put for question 3?
I want to help animals.
Awesome. And how about question 4?
Nema and Macy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. These were great responses. Would anybody else like to share what they have added to our Jamboard today? Let's see, I think I see Anna as your hand raised. Go ahead and you can unmute and share out with us. I'll flip back through the questions.
For the first question, I put picking up trash.
Okay, wonderful. How about
For
question 2?
second question, I put it's Wingardium Leviosa, not Wingardium Leviosa.
Okay, awesome. How about question 3?
The third one, I put I want to be a special needs assistant and a YouTuber.
Great goals. And how about number 4?
I put Annika, my friend, and Braylon, my friend.
Okay, wonderful. That'd be so fun to be able to invite your friends onto a podcast. Would anybody else like to share it with us? All right, it looks like we have shared out. So thank you all for adding your wonderful responses. This is just a great way as we're meeting virtually tonight, just to get to know each other a little bit better and what we like to do and our future goals. So we're going to flip back now onto our presentation here. We're going to have some games upcoming in the future as well throughout this presentation. And we're going to close the night with our special guest speaker, which I am looking forward to meeting myself, and I know you all are as well. So tonight's topic, what are we going to be learning about tonight? We're going to be learning about federal government is our topic tonight. So before we dive in too deep, we're going to do a little knowledge check before. And on this slide, we see a question. When you hear the words federal government, what comes to mind? So whether or not maybe you've learned about federal government in school before, or maybe you haven't had a chance to yet, I'm going to ask you to share in the chat right now. What is something that you know about federal government? What is something you might be curious to know? Maybe you want to take a guess. Go ahead and just add some ideas in the chat now. What comes to mind when you hear the words federal government? We're just going to take a second to do that now. I see FBI comes to mind. Oh, I've learned about the 3 branches of government. Wonderful. That will be great knowledge to go into tonight with. We're going to talk about that a little bit more this evening as well. So let's spend a little time reviewing. So whether or not you've been to a virtual speakers series before or you are brand new, we have learned in the past Friday Night Lives that there are 3 branches of government. And our friend Grace mentioned that she has learned about that before. Oh, and we had, I know Sherman Compromise helped with giving everyone equal say. Wonderful. So there are 3 branches of government. We have the legislative branch of government, which is responsible for creating the laws. That's our first branch. Our second branch is the executive branch, and they implement laws. Our third and final branch of government is the judicial branch, and they check over the laws. That's just a quick overview of the responsibilities of each branch. So why? This is a very important kind of umbrella question. Why are there 3 branches of government? There are 3 branches of government at every level of government, which includes local government, it includes state government, it includes our topic for tonight, which is federal government. So there's a couple important reasons why we have 3 branches of government at each level. The first reason is to ensure there are checks and balances, and that makes sure that no single person or no single group has too much power. The second reason why it is important is each branch of government has their own powers and responsibilities, which help keep the government running smoothly and efficiently. So those are 2 important reasons why we have 3 branches of government at each level. So what is federal government? That's tonight's topic. We're going to get a chance to explore that more. So a little bit about the federal government. It is the national government of the United States. Sometimes it's referred to just as Washington. It's like a shortened version of its name. It is made up of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, those three branches of government we just reviewed, who are granted by the Constitution, Congress, the President, and federal courts. Well, who is a part of federal government? What does the federal government represent? It not only represents the 50 states in the US, it also represents Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, Guam, the American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, additional small islands, and the District of Columbia, which is also known as Washington, D.C. A little bit about the federal government. The federal government was created in 1789. So it's been around a long time. That's 235 years. So a really long time it's been around. The overall framework of the federal government is outlined in the U.S. Constitution. And the U.S. Constitution is sometimes referred to as the supreme law of the land. So it's very, very important. Here on our screen, we have what is known as the Great Seal, which is the national symbol of the United States. On the bottom part of our screen, which we can see being circled in this yellow part, this is known as the coat of arms. This is a symbol used to represent the federal government. Has anybody ever seen this symbol before, the coat of arms? You can shake your head yes, no, you can raise your hand. I see a couple nods, yes. So some of us maybe have seen it, some of us maybe not. Well, let's take a closer look at what kind of symbols are on this coat of arms. We can see up here, up at the top, there's a big eagle, and in this eagle's beak, it's holding a scroll. And on the scroll, there's some Latin words, which means one out of many. This eagle down here in the corner, in one of its claws, has an olive branch. This olive branch usually has 13 olives on it and 13 leaves. On the other claw of the eagle, it has a group of arrows. There's usually 13 arrows in this group. What these two symbols mean on this coat of arms, both the olive branch and the arrows, is the combination of the olive branch and the group of arrows symbolize a strong desire for peace for the United States, but the arrows represent that we are always ready for war. Now, up here, we see the head of the eagle. This head of the eagle is pointing in the direction of the olive branch. And there's an important reason why it's like that, is to emphasize the United States' desire for peace. That is why it's pointed in the direction of the olive branch, because that symbolizes peace. So on this slide, I have a couple questions that I want to ask you. The first question is, on this slide, we see a number that is represented a lot on this symbol. So I want you to take a look at this slide and these symbols. And if you notice a certain number that appears a lot on this slide, go ahead and enter that number in the chat now. I'm seeing some numbers come through. If you added the number 13, or you noticed the number 13 appeared a lot, you are correct. The number 13 appears a lot on this symbol. We see 13 stars up here at the top. We see 13 olives in the branch. We see 13 leaves in the branch. And we see 13 in the number of the group of arrows. So follow-up question. Oh, I like 13, also Taylor Swift's favorite number. A little fun fact there. Love it. Love that extra little fun fact. Wonderful. I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Does anybody know what the number 13 represents? What is the meaning of the number 13? Again, if you just want to take a guess, you are more than welcome to. Yes, Anna, do you have a question or would you like to answer?
I would like to answer.
Okay, let's just give a few more seconds for everybody else to input and then you can share out, okay?
Okay.
Okay, a few more have added. So Anna, go ahead and share it. What does the number 13 represent? And then Reagan will come to you.
It represents the 13 colonies and the Declaration of Independence, like all about the 13 colonies, like telling about how some of them didn't want to sign it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Reagan, would you like to share out as well?
The original 13 colonies when we were our own country, and then we had the war between us and Britain.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Yes, the number 13, wonderful. I see. Thank you to Reagan and Anna for sharing out, along to those that added into the chat. You all are so smart. Yes, the number 13 does represent the original 13 colonies that were a part of the United States. So wonderful job to everyone. So when is the coat of arms symbol used? You may have some of these objects with the coat of arms in your house right now, some objects. One of the objects that I have in my house right now that has the coat of arms on it is a dollar bill. So on the back of the dollar bill, you'll notice that the coat of arms is on the back of it. Another object that you might have around your house that has a coat of arms on it is a passport, and that's stamped on the front, the coat of arms. Now, not only is it on these two objects, but it is on additional federal documents when they are validated to make them official. So at the beginning of this presentation, we briefly discussed why there are 3 branches of government. Remember, we saw that why, the very important umbrella question, kind of to piece it all together tonight. Why are there 3 branches of government? At the local level, the state level, and the federal level that we're learning about tonight. We'll do a little review. Can anybody remember that slide? Why are there 3 branches of government? You can chat, you can raise your hand. Grace, I love it, to make sure one branch isn't too powerful. That is correct, those checks and balances. No one single person or group has too much power. Anna, do you remember the other one? What's the other reason? Checks and balances and?
I remember that like one of them has too much power.
And balances to make sure not one single person or group has too much power. And the other reason is so that each branch has their own responsibilities and their roles to help keep the government running smoothly and efficiently. So those were those 2 important reasons. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time exploring who is a part of each branch of government at the federal level, along with the important roles and responsibilities that each branch has. So the first branch we're going to look at is the legislative branch of the federal government. So who is a part of the legislative branch? Well, The United States Congress represents the legislative branch of the federal government. Congress is made up of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Congress was founded, again, a long time ago in 1789, which was at 235 years ago, so it's been around a while. And meetings take place in the Capitol building, which is located in Washington, D.C., which we can see down here in the bottom picture. There's a picture of the Capitol building. Has anybody ever visited Washington, D.C. before and maybe seen the Capitol building? You can shake your head yes, shake your head no. I have not had a chance to do that yet. It's on my to-do list, but I have not. So let's take a closer look at the House of Representatives, that first part of the U.S. Congress. There are 435 voting members in the House of Representatives. A House of Representative is an individual who represents a district in their state, and they serve for a 2-year term. Now, in order to be elected to be a House of Representative, you do need to fulfill some requirements, which are you have to be at least 25 years old. You need to be a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years, and you must live in the state that you want to serve and represent. Now, if there's ever a point that there's an empty seat in the House of Representatives, there must be a special election in order to fill that empty seat. Now on our screen right now, we have a map of the House of Representatives seats in the United States Congress. You'll see, I want to point out, I have circled down here these purple circles, and these represent our House of Representatives for the state of Michigan. I have a question that I'd like to ask you all right now. Does anyone have any thoughts as to why some states have more colored dots? So we can see California has a lot more dots than Michigan. Why do you think that might be? You can enter it in the chat. You can raise your hand. I'll give everybody a second to do that. Why do you think some states have more colored dots? Grace, again, awesome. You got it right. Way to go. Give everybody one more second here. Anna, you are correct. Great job. And Reagan, go ahead and share it with us. Why do some states have more colored dots?
Because the House of Representatives are on population and the Senate are 2 for each state.
Wonderful. Excellent response. Yes, the United States House of Representatives are based on states' population. So the more people that live in the state, the more number of House of Representatives they have. So California has more people living in their state, and that's the reason why they have more House of Representatives than our state, Michigan. So just to review, there are 435 total voting members in the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, there also are 6 additional non-voting members. And those include the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., the American Samoa, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Northern Mariana Islands. So they still have a House of Representatives, but they cannot vote. And Reagan led us right into this next slide. So thank you so much. The Senate, the second part of the United States Congress. The U.S. Senate has a total of 100 senators. And just like Reagan mentioned, there are 2 senators per state, regardless of its population. A senator serves a 6-year term, so a little bit more than a House of Representatives. Just like a House of Representatives, a senator must also fulfill some requirements to be elected. They have to be 30 years old, They have to be a citizen of the United States for at least 9 years, and they have to live in the state that they serve and represent. Now, if there's an empty seat in the Senate, a state governor can choose somebody to fill in that position until a special election can be held. So if we had an open Senate seat in the state of Michigan, our governor, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, could appoint somebody to that position until a special election could be held. And here is a picture of where the Senate meets in the U.S. Capitol building. Here are some current women leaders that are part of the legislative branch. We have our vice president. We have Patty Murray, who's a president pro tempore. And what that means, that fancy word, is that serves as a second highest ranking official in the United States Senate, right after the vice president, who is the president of the Senate. Then the last three women that we have, they are all from the state of Michigan. We have Debbie Stabenow, who is one of the U.S. senators for the state of Michigan. We will be joined by Callie Fox, her regional manager tonight. She'll be our special guest. And then we also have two women that represent the House of Representatives from the state of Michigan. So I'll give you a second to read through their descriptions before moving on to the next slide. Okay, we're going to move on along. Now we're going to take a closer look at the powers and responsibilities of both the House of Representatives and Congress. So on the left side of the screen where we see the House of Representatives, those are the exclusive power for the House of Representatives, and they are the only ones that can do those roles and responsibilities, which are, they're the only ones when a bill comes up that has to do with money, it has to start in the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives are also only the ones that can vote to remove a federal official. Now, on the other side, we have our Senate on the right side. They also have exclusive powers that the Senate are the only ones that are able to do. One of their exclusive powers are they're able to approve several important presidential appointments, which may include military officers, ambassadors from other countries, federal judges, and etc. They are also the only ones that have the ability to hold a trial to determine if the elected official should be removed from their position in office. Now, in the middle circle, we have shared powers and responsibilities with which both the Senate and the House of Representatives can do. So they both can approve a bill for it to turn into a law. They can also collect taxes and determine money value. They can create post offices and roads. And they also have the ability to support military and the power to declare war. Now, the last very important member of our legislative branch of the federal government is the vice president. She, or that person, is the second highest official member in the federal government. The vice president has the ability to only vote in the Senate when there is a tie. The vice president is a primary leader when there is a joint meeting between the House of Representatives and the Senate to count the votes from the Electoral College. And the Electoral College helps determine who has been elected president and vice president of the United States. Now, under special circumstances, the vice president's power can move to the executive branch if there's a president that dies or there's a presidential departure. And that has only happened 9 times in U.S. history. Jumping into our second branch of government is the executive branch. Whose is a part of the executive branch of the federal government? Well, the first important member is the President of the United States. The president serves as both the head of government and the armed forces. As soon as the president is sworn into office, they must follow and protect the U.S. Constitution no matter what. The president can negotiate and arrange treaties. Treaties is just a fancy word for agreements with other countries. When a bill is approved by both the House of Representatives and Senate, it is then sent to the president to pass or decline. If the president signs the bill, it then becomes an official law. And here on the bottom of our screen here, we have the president's office, which is known as the Oval Office, and it's in the White House. Other important members of the executive branch include the presidential cabinet. The presidential cabinet's primary role is to serve as an advisory board or offer advice to the president. They also implement programs and enforce laws created by Congress. The presidential cabinet is made up of the vice president and 15 leaders in executive departments. The president has the ability to nominate members of the cabinet, which are then approved by the Senate. So right there, we can see where those checks and balances come in, where the president starts the process of nominating those cabinet members, and then the Senate checks it over and it has the ability to approve those members that will be a part of the cabinet. Here we have some current women leaders who are a part of the presidential cabinet. Once again, we have a member from our state, Michigan, Jennifer Granholm, who is the Secretary of Energy for the presidential cabinet. So once again, I'll give you just a minute to read through these ladies' descriptions. Now, an also important part of the branches of government is the judicial branch. So, who is a part of the judicial branch? We have the Supreme Court and additional federal courts that comprise the judicial branch of the federal government. There are a total of 9 court justices, 1 that serves as the chief, and 8 additional other justices. Currently, we have the greatest number of women justices a part of the Supreme Court, which is 4. All Supreme Court justices are nominated by the president, which once again are approved by the Senate. Supreme Court justices may occupy their seat until they die, retire, resign, or ask to be removed. And here we have a picture of the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. And here we have our women leaders that serve as Supreme Court justices currently. I'll give you a second to read through these. What are the Supreme Court powers and responsibilities? They first can explain the meaning of a law. They have the power to determine a law's relevance. They can decide the best course of action to apply a law. They can hear and answer any questions regarding a law. And the Supreme Court typically doesn't hold any trials. And federal courts' powers and responsibilities. Federal courts are also a part of the judicial branch of the federal government. Some of their powers and responsibilities include hearing cases that have to do with the law regarding the U.S. Constitution. They can hear cases that involve laws and treaties, once again, those agreements among the U.S. and other countries, disagreements between 2 or more states, in cases that involve maritime law. And what maritime law is any trade or any navigation regarding any oceans or seas. That's what those laws mean. Critical thinking game like a judge. What we're actually going to do is we are going to come back to this because I see our wonderful guest speaker has joined our call. So we're going to go ahead and jump in to our guest speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick flip through these slides. Don't worry, we'll come back to these. And I'm going to get to our introduction slide with our wonderful guest speaker, which is Callie Fox. She is going to be joining us this evening. Once again, she is the regional manager for the U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. And here are just a few fun facts to get to know her as she gets started with us this evening. She started working with the senator in August of 2004. She has worked out of both the Grand Rapids and East Lansing offices for the senator. She graduated from Grand Valley State, where she serves as a senator's intern in 2003. She is married with one dog named Holly. So cute. She says the best thing about Michigan is summer. Couldn't agree more, absolutely. And look at this. She was a Girl Scout, just like you. And her favorite cookie is the Samoa, which once again, I approved. I have some of those right now. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Let's give a warm Girl Scout welcome to our guest speaker of the night, Callie Fox. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me to do this. I'm super excited to speak to you all. I just want, they went through my biography, but I think it's important for me to describe exactly what a regional manager for a United States Senator does. So, as you probably went over the slides earlier, the United States Senate is in DC, and so the senator has to fly to DC every Monday, and she comes home Friday night or Saturday morning. So she's in DC for that period. But she represents the state of Michigan. So obviously she can't be at every meeting she's invited to in Michigan during the week because she's in DC. And so she has 6 regional managers, and I am one of them, that goes to her meetings on her behalf. And then we take notes and see if there's anything that the senator can do if it's a problem, or taking notes if there's a new organization and what they're all about, or if there's just something new and exciting somewhere in a city in Michigan, we'll summarize that for her too, so she knows what's going on back in her home state. And then usually Saturday to Monday morning, she is back in the state of Michigan. And so I will often travel with her, and we will be with her when she is doing those meetings on her own. For example, tomorrow, she is going to go to a Democratic gala in Grand Rapids, and I will be driving her and staffing her while she's going to speak to about 300 people tomorrow night. And then I will bring her home, and then on Sunday she'll do a couple things, and then on Monday we'll have one more event in Grand Rapids, and then she'll get on a flight in Grand Rapids and fly to DC back on Monday. So busy schedule. So that's why she needs staff in Michigan to do that stuff on her behalf, because she can't be everywhere at once. And so that's my role. And I also do, like if you're having a problem with, say you're going to go on vacation for spring break, even though I know spring break's probably over for you. But if you go anywhere outside of the United States, you need a passport. And that's a document that allows you to go back and forth saying you are a United States citizen, but you can only get them from the federal government. And if you lose that, or you don't have one in time for your trip, you can call our offices and we can help facilitate getting you one. And so those are kind of the type of problems we work with on a day-to-day basis. what I love about my job is that there is, it's never the same day twice, because I get to meet about all different types of things going on in Michigan. I get to speak to various groups. So the Girl Scouts tonight is very cool. But let's see, where have I been this week? Just for an example, I was in Detroit yesterday. The senator did an urban farm groundbreaking in the city of Detroit. So I went there. See, I'm trying to think where else I went this week. I was really busy. Last week, I went to a veterans event in Brighton, went to a community college event in Ann Arbor. And so it's all different topics all the time. And so that's what I really love about my job. And unfortunately, the senator is going to be retiring at the end of this year after 24 years in the federal government. And so I will have to, unfortunately, look for something else. But I have loved working for her for the last almost 20 years. And kind of to wind back on the time, let me kind of explain how I got here. So like I said on my slide, I went to Grand Valley, which is in the west side of the state. Great school. I know you guys are a little young, but you got to start thinking about it. And I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. And so I was taking a bunch of different classes, and I really, really liked political science because I learned about the history, which I had been interested in. And then it ties in with current events because I've always loved reading the news, watching the news. And so I took a bunch of those classes, and I really realized that was something that I wanted to pursue, but I didn't know how I could pursue a degree in political science. What do you do with a degree in political science? And a lot of people go on to law school, which is a great path, but that was not something that I wanted to do. And so I was researching, and I saw that Senator Stabenow had an opening for an intern, and I applied and got that. And I learned all about what senators do. And it was definitely eye-opening. It was interesting. I went 3 days a week, and I really got to see how she helps people. It's not just writing laws, it's helping people in Michigan, which is super close to her heart and super close to my heart. And after my internship, she asked if I wanted to come on as a full-time staffer. And I, of course, have wanted to do that. And like I said, August 18th will be my 20th anniversary with her. And I am a really big proponent. And as you get older and opportunities come to you, like, hey, you could volunteer for this organization, or you could intern, or you could, shadow someone in an office for a day. Try to do as many of those things as you can, so you can figure out, when you get older, what you do want to pursue. And that the internship, had I not said yes to it or not found it, I might not be in this role. And I think I would have not been as happy as I am, because I really love what I do. And so take advantage of those things when you see volunteer opportunities come up, because you never know what you'll discover. Like, I didn't know what a senator did until I went and interned for her. And then had I not known she helped people like she does, I would have thought it was just a boring office job writing laws. But there is a whole different side to a senator's office too. So I would encourage you to take as many of those opportunities that come your way. And I know, when you earn your badges and things, you are volunteering and helping, and, just think about that as you get older. Oh, I really loved when we did this in Girl Scouts, or, I love this when I did it in school. I'm really interested in math. Just think about that as you get older, and I'm sure there will be a career of something that you're going to be passionate about. The relevant life experience that I can say that kind of resonates with you all is that it's a service above self, right? And so I don't do this job because it will, make me a lot of money, or it puts my name in the newspaper, or I can, brag on Facebook or Instagram or social media. I do it because every day the senator, through me, we get to help people. Veterans who are coming back from serving overseas and they need to get their benefits, or need to find out how they get medical care. Your grandparents, or maybe even your parents, because they pay into Social Security, they get Medicare and Social Security when they get older. And sometimes there's a lot of problems with that. And so we want to make sure that everyone gets the benefits that they have earned. And so, we're not always looking about us, we're looking about how we can better the state of Michigan. And I think the senator has really encompassed that throughout her time in government. She started helping people, this is a really long time ago, but when she was first running for office in Lansing, the reason she got into politics was because they were going to close the only nursing home in Lansing. And she wanted to make sure that people had a place to go when they needed care. And so she fought to keep that nursing home open, and realized advocating for people was something that she really wanted to do. And so she ran for office, where then she could do that on a larger level. And so that's and even making laws in the Senate, they're all about trying to help people. And or businesses or groups in Michigan, we're always trying to better Michigan, like protecting the Great Lakes, right? Where would we be in Michigan if our Great Lakes were polluted, or they got to drill in them and we had an oil spill, or people were taking our water and sending it to California because they don't have as much water as we do, or just plenty of things that could ruin our Great Lakes. And I don't know about you, but I love spending time in Lake Michigan in the summer. So it would be so sad if, something that makes our state, the Great Lakes state, was not protected. And so we always are working on that. What's another thing in Michigan that we really, a Michigan way of life, like agriculture? There's a lot of farms in Michigan. So a lot of people are employed either by a farmer or a farmer. And we want to make sure that they have the tools they need so we can buy their food, right? In the grocery store or at a farmer's market. And so it's just a big circle of how we can help people in different ways. And, there are really cool things that I get to do. For example, last night, the senator went to the NFL draft in Detroit. That was really fun. I have gotten to meet President Biden and Vice President Harris and President Obama a number of years ago. Those things are always cool to do, but that's not why I do it. So like I said, I just love my job. And I am sad that I don't get to do this for a little bit longer, but you never know. Someone who replaces the senator, I may go work for them when they do it. But that's the one downside I will say to this job is because you are an elected official, it is the responsibility of the citizens of Michigan to select who they want representing them. And so I don't know if you got in depth in the Senate, but it's every 6 years we go through an election. And so every 6 years, we count on the citizens of Michigan to go out and vote. And then whoever wins, we get to continue or not continue. And so that's why the senator has always said serving Michigan is what she is elected to do. Because ultimately, Michigan citizens are going to be the one to reelect her. So, it can be very politically charged. So it's not really fun right now because it's very me versus you. But that means the fight is really, really worth it when we can get big wins for Michigan. I don't know if I'd actually just love to hear from you all. If you have any more questions, or if you want to hear a story or about anything, even if it's not about my job, but maybe politics in general or government in general, I'd be more than happy to answer that. Or if you just have, a story you want to tell me, I'd be more than happy to listen to that too.
Yes, we are welcome to open it up to questions. You can either type them in the chat. I'll be looking at them in the chat, or you are welcome to raise your hand if you want to unmute and share out. And Callie, I think that's so wonderful that you shared that you're able to help so many people. We did an icebreaker at the beginning of our call, and they were able to add some of their causes that are important to them and future goals and careers, and helping people was definitely a common theme that came up. So I'm so glad you touched on that, because it seems like that is a big passion for these girls on the call this evening.
So I saw that, is it Reagan?
Yes. Why did you choose this job?
So I had to do, there are 2 senators in Michigan, and then there are, I think we're down to 13 congressional members in Michigan, and a number of state officials. So I could, if I wanted to work in elected office, I had a number of people to choose from. And before I became an intern with the senator, I researched her, because I was like, well, I want to make sure I'm working for someone that has the same beliefs as I do, because I don't want to fight against something that I want. So I definitely researched her. Not only was she a woman, and she was the first woman elected to the United States Senate for Michigan, which was a pretty big deal back in 2000. And I am very pro-woman. So that was number one, was that I saw this woman, and she beat a male incumbent, which never happened before in Michigan. And actually in the United States Senate, it had never happened. It had always been an open seat. And so she ran against a incumbent male. And how many women groups supported her and got out, that was just really fun to see. And even now, the women's groups that have been with her for 25 plus years. But she also, one of the number one reasons, and you all are probably too young to remember, but we went back in 2001, 2002, the United States went to war with Iraq. And it was a very controversial decision, because we didn't know really why we were going to war with Iraq. And so the Senate has to vote on whether or not you go to war. And everyone was just kind of saying yes, because that was what they should have done. But the senator really stood up against her colleagues. And even one of her colleagues was Senator Clinton at the time, Hillary Clinton, who was the leader of our party. And she stood up and said, no, we don't have enough information. Let's do some more digging, because, we will be sending our children to fight this war, and we really need to know why we're doing it. And she was only one of 18 people that did that. And I thought that took a lot of courage. And again, I wanted to, she was just great. And I could look up to her, and our beliefs aligned. And so she was the one I wanted to work for. I hope that answered your question. That's why I chose her, whether or not I could have chosen many other people to work for. And it looks like, okay, is it Sienna? Or how do you, the second?
Yes,
do I
she's shaking her head. Yeah. Do you have a degree? And if so, what is your degree in?
So I have a bachelor's degree from Grand Valley in political science. And then I have a minor in public administration, which means I took a lot of classes to figure out how to work day to day with public officials, what kind of policy they need. And so those were the two degrees two subjects that I thought would best align with my career goals. But that doesn't mean you have to have a political science degree if you want to go into politics. The senator is a social worker by trade. So she has a master's in social work. So, and I have one of my counterparts in Traverse City, she has a communications degree. You don't always have to have like a political degree to work in politics. We need all comers, because we want, as many talents and different perspectives as we can. So don't just think you have to have a political science degree to work in this field. You could have anything you wanted. Okay, Anna, are you able to say if a bill becomes a law? Yes. So there are so many bills that are just pending in the Senate. So someone introduces it. A lot of times we don't vote on every bill that's introduced. But like, let's see, Thursday, we voted on a defense foreign intelligence bill. And it took a couple weeks for it to come up to the floor, and we needed the funding. And it took many votes in both the House and the Senate. I won't bore you with the details, but there's a lot of different procedures in the Senate that you have to go through. And it's a very close, it's 52-48 in the Senate. So 52 Democrats, 48 Republicans. And so very close. So if you need 51 votes for it to pass. So there are a lot of tie-breaking votes. And I saw when I jumped on that you talked about how the vice president has to come in and break the tie. And right now that's Vice President Harris. And not so much this year, but before 2022. So in 2020 and 2021, part of 2022, she had to come in an awful lot because it was a 50-50 split. And so she had to always do the tie-breaking vote. And so, yes, so we actually monitor all that legislation that is introduced until it's passed, or if we quote unquote say it dies in the Senate, which means after 2 years, if it's not passed or, rejected, you have to reintroduce that bill again. And so we follow those pieces of legislation for about 2 years, given the interests of groups in Michigan. Was there any let's see, Anna, can you explain your question a little bit more?
Your second question?
Yeah, the second question.
What I meant was were people arguing with the Nazis to go to the work camp?
Okay, so you're talking historically, right? Okay, so during World War II, great. So my grandfather fought in World War II. Both of my grandpas fought in World War II, and so I know a little bit about this. But yes, that is actually one of the reasons why the United States got into World War II is because they really did oppose the work camps in Germany and in the, I think there were a number in Austria, there were a number of work camps. So yes, the other reason was, you've probably learned this a little bit in history, but Pearl Harbor on December 7th, that was another reason we got into World War II. But yes, but right now, and historically, that's a really good question, because right now there are a lot of conflicts overseas. Right now we see a lot of other countries fighting, and other countries want us to get involved. And we kind of have to look at it as a United States. The president has the final say of what countries we help, if we get involved, if there are atrocities like what the Nazis did, we have to kind of all evaluate that. And like I said, the president has the final say. He has a Department of Defense. That's one of the members of his cabinet. And they, all members of the military report to the Department of Defense, and then they advise the president on what's going on. And so I hope that answers your question. But even historically, things, how they say history doesn't just happen once, it comes around. Well, we're kind of dealing with that right now. Reagan, do you face difficult challenges? And I'm assuming you mean in my job, right? Difficult challenges in my job? Okay, yes. Because I'm not always going to meet with people that agree with me or my boss, right? And so sometimes that's hard because they want you to agree with them. They want you to maybe vote against a bill that the senator supports, or vice versa, or they don't want a project to be funded, or what's another thing? I don't know how much you got into it, but there's a separation of powers where the federal government can't come in a lot and tell the state what to do. And a lot of times, because the senator has served in a number of roles, they think she's the top of the pyramid, so she can just come in and tell the governor what to do or tell the state legislature what to do. And, due to the rules of the Constitution, we can't do that. But some people don't understand that because they think, oh, well, if she's the United States senator, she can tell everybody below her what to do. And that's just not how it works. And so often telling a lot of my job can be education, or I'm explaining different rules of the Constitution and why we can't get involved in things. And so, yes, there are hard meetings that I take every day, phone calls that I take every day, responding to emails. Or if we just can't help someone with their problem, like, maybe they only came to us the day before with a passport, the day before they're going to leave for their trip, and we just can't get their passport in 24 hours. That's hard because they want to go on vacation, and we understand it, and we just can't. It's not every day is, or not every subject is a positive one, but that's kind of the role, because the senator, whether or not you voted for her, she represents you. And so we meet with everybody, depending on of their political affiliation or what their subject is about. We're there to be responsive to the constituents. So yeah, that can be a little hard in my job. And then if so, how do you get through them? Well, it helps having a great boss. And, she helps us work through like her motivations behind everything. And so we can talk to her about that if we're having a difficult constituent or a problem, or there's a difficult issue. A lot of issues that we vote on are not black and white. And so there are different motivations behind everybody. So talking with her, and sometimes when you just have a really bad call and it's, people aren't nice to you. I have a wonderful staff of coworkers where I can go and just be like, hey, can I have 5 minutes just to tell you about a call I was on? And the senator, being a social worker, really wants you to, take some self-care. If you need 10 minutes off the phone just to kind of regather yourself and take a minute, take a couple deep breaths. Maybe for me, I like to sit in my office and have a Diet Coke just to relax, or maybe a glass of water, or, lemonade or something, and just take, a few minutes just to decompress. She really wants you to do that. And so that's how I get through it. And then at home, sometimes when I have a really bad day, I get to come home, walk my dog, and, watch one of my favorite silly TV shows or a podcast. I do that a lot, or listen to an audiobook. That's how I personally decompress sometimes. And then Anna, do you choose if someone gets elected? Well, yeah, as soon as you turn 18, everybody has the right to vote. So you do have to register, but it's very easy to register to vote when you turn 18. And then yes, you can choose exactly who you want to vote for. And what's nice is what candidates are running ahead of time, and what proposals are on the ballot. So there's some laws that you can take a look at that the citizens get to vote on. And you get all that time to research it, and you have the ability to then maybe go to a town hall or a debate or call their office. And if there's something that you don't agree with or you don't understand, you can get that information beforehand. That's what's great about our electoral system, is that you have the opportunity to vote for who most aligns with you. And what's nice in Michigan, it's a little different for the primary, but we'll talk about, that's a whole different story, but you don't have to vote for all Democrats or all Republicans or all independents. You can vote for whoever you want to vote for, not just the party that maybe your parents follow, or you most likely. There's sometimes where I don't agree with everybody either, but that's the great thing about voting. And so, and especially, we all talk about on TV, the vice president and the president and the Supreme, well, we don't vote on the Supreme Court, but the Senate and the House. But, some of the most important elections that you can vote on are your local ones. So your county commission, your city commission, your school board, because those make the most decisions that affect you locally, like whether or not some rules to your school. Well, if you don't like some of them that are by the school board, like you can either run when you turn 18, or you can support a candidate that maybe aligns more with your school. But it's so effective locally, and a lot of people think they skip those, and I just think that's a travesty, because those are some that make the most integral decisions to your day-to-day life. So don't always forget those, or judges. Judges are also important when you have to vote for them. Yep. Anna, do you have another question?
Go ahead, Anna. You can unmute yourself and ask We'll make this our last question.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to tell you that my dad worked for the school board.
Great. Where do you go to school?
Forest Elementary.
Okay. Yeah. So your dad got involved. So that's great. Yeah, my parents never, my parents are still really surprised that I went into politics and government because my dad was a farmer and my mom was a school principal. So they didn't really get involved in politics, but they're surprised that that's what I did. But that's great that you got exposure at such a early time because now you know how that works. That's great.
Thank you for sharing, Anna. And to everyone that entered questions or had a thought, thank you so much, Callie, for coming on the call and sharing with us tonight. I think you touched on a lot of the beauty of what we do on these calls, which is to show these girls that you don't have to start in a certain path. All these women leaders are coming into their, careers and experiences with a ton of different backgrounds and degrees, and just, you don't have to, follow a specific path. You are destined to do whatever it is you may want to do. So thank you so much for coming on the call tonight and inspiring these girls. I enjoyed hearing from you and meeting you, and just thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us tonight and join us on our call.
Oh, thank you. This is one of my fun things of the week. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, and we're going to go back to, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go back to our little critical thinking game that we were going to do, which was thinking like a judge. I'm going to go back one slide here. Okay, so we're going to go into critical thinking game, think like a judge. So judges are an important part of each level of government, and Callie actually just mentioned judges as well. So we have judges at the local level of government, we have judges at the state level of government, and we have judges at the federal government. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into breakout rooms. And every day judges make decisions. So like I just said, you're going to be broken into, we're just going to do, Anterica will just do 2 breakout rooms. And your group will serve as a judge, and you will have a discussion about this hypothetical court case. Your group will get about 5 minutes to discuss, and then we'll come back together and one spokesperson can share out what your group had talked about. And I will also share this slide when you are in the breakout room, so you'll be able to see the directions and see the scenario and questions. So this is the scenario that you're going to reread through with your group and talk about these questions. We'll just look at it together right now. So Mrs. Carefree took her Girl Scout troop to the park for a fun afternoon outing. Mrs. Carefree was gossiping with the other troop leader, and Sally fell off the monkey bars. Sally ended up breaking her arm and had to go to the hospital to get a cast. So this is what questions I want you to think about with your group. Was there carelessness involved from the troop leader? Why or why not? Did the carelessness contribute to Sally's injury? As a judge, whose side would you favor and why? Would you favor Sally's side, or would you favor the troop leader's side? So we will break you up into breakout rooms, and I will share this slide. Go ahead and reread the scenario and think about the questions. Welcome back. We'll wait for our other group to come back, and then we'll share out, and then we'll wrap up for the night. Okay, and our other group is back as well. Wonderful. Does anybody from room number 1, which was, let's see, Grace and Reagan's group, do either of you want to share what you talked about in your room? I see Grace has her hand up. Go ahead and share, Grace.
So Reagan and I, we think the carelessness did contribute to the injury, because the troop leader shouldn't have been gossiping with her kids, and she should have been paying more attention to the kids, because anything could have happened, including the injury.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. How about room number 2? Anybody from room number 2 want to share out? Anna, go ahead.
So me and Sienna were talking about how there was carelessness, and it was caused by the troop leader just complaining and not looking after the kids like she was supposed to. So it wasn't Sally's fault, because she couldn't help it, because she couldn't hold on any longer. So me and her would be on Sally's side, because she literally broke her arm and it wasn't her fault.
Thank you for sharing. And I agree with both of the groups that just shared. I do believe the carelessness did contribute to the injury, because as a troop leader, you take on a great deal of responsibility that you are always watching out for the Girl Scouts that you are responsible for and are taking care of. And Sally, if she needed help on the monkey bar, she might have been asking for help. But if the troop leader wasn't paying attention, then she didn't know Sally was in need of help. So it could have prevented the injury if she was paying attention. So thank you all so much for sharing out. Wonderful. And with that being said, we are going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. So I am going to go ahead and put on the screen our surveys. So here is our survey. So if you would like to take the chance to, you can either scan the QR code, or Anterica has also put the link in the chat. So if you can take just a second to go ahead and fill out the survey for us. Just a great way for us to have feedback of ways to continue to build out programs and improve our programs here at Girl Scouts. I will also be sending you all an email on Monday, so if you don't get a chance to fill it out tonight, you can also take the time to fill it out then. Yes, Anna, go ahead.
I would just like to say thank you so much. This really made my day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. That makes me so happy to hear. And I think Anterica and I were just talking, I enjoy as much as I think maybe you do hearing from these women leaders. And I learned so much throughout these calls as well from these women leaders. And it's always exciting to hear from somebody new, and you're always a learner and there's always something new to learn. And that's something wonderful about these calls. So thank you for sharing that, Anna. Okay, I'm going to flip to the next slide, which is just our ending slide. If anybody needs me to go back to the survey slide, please feel free to let me know. But this is just a thank you slide. Thank you all once again for joining us this evening. We hope you enjoyed yourselves. And we will have our next virtual speaker series coming up on Friday, May 24th, same time, 5:30 to 7 on Zoom. If you'd like to go ahead and get registered, Anterica has uploaded the link into chat if you want to take the time to register right now. And we hope to see you at our next virtual speaker series on May 24th. Yes, Reagan.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And with that, we're all wrapped up for the evening. Thank you all once again. Have a fabulous week. It is supposed to be beautiful. And we hope to see you at the next event. Take care, everybody. Thank you for coming.